Most people live their lives playing small. They shrink their dreams to fit their circumstances, they let fear dictate their choices, and they settle for comfort over greatness. But life was never meant to be lived small. You were designed to expand, to grow, to stretch beyond your limitations, and to live in alignment with the highest version of yourself. The moment you start thinking bigger, everything in your life begins to shift. Thinking bigger unlocks possibility, it breaks the prison of limitation, and it allows you to live not just a good life, but a truly great life. Let me share with you 6 key principles that will help you break through small thinking and step into the life you were meant to live. Redefining what's possible begins with questioning the invisible rules you've been living by. Most of us have been conditioned since childhood to think within certain boundaries. Boundaries set by our parents, our teachers, our culture, or even our past experiences. We internalize phrases like be realistic or don't aim too high, and slowly those voices become our own. They create an internal ceiling that determines how far we believe we can go. The truth is, the ceiling isn't real. It's something you've accepted, not something that actually exists. The world is filled with countless examples of people who defied what others thought was possible, who went beyond the limitations that everyone else accepted as truth. The difference between them and the rest of the world wasn't talent, it wasn't luck, it was their ability to redefine possibility. Think about it. What if the limits you see right now are nothing more than old stories? Maybe you were told you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not young enough, not connected enough. But those aren't facts, they're opinions, and opinions don't define destiny. The moment you stop letting those stories control you and start asking, what's actually possible if I gave everything I've got, your world expands. Most people never ask that question. They spend their entire lives negotiating with their dreams, cutting them down to fit the size of their fear. They tell themselves they'll try when things are perfect, when they have more time, when they feel ready. But the truth is you'll never feel completely ready, and circumstances will never be perfect. If you want to live a greater life, you've got to stop waiting for permission and start redefining what's possible for you now. When you allow yourself to think bigger, you activate parts of your brain and your spirit that have been dormant. Suddenly, you're not just thinking about surviving, you're thinking about creating, contributing, and expanding. You stop asking small questions like, how do I get by? And start asking powerful questions like, how do I create something extraordinary? How do I use my life to make an impact? How do I turn my potential into reality? These questions open doors in your mind, and those doors lead to opportunities you couldn't even see before. That's why possibility is a choice. You see more of it the moment you believe more of it is available. Redefining possibility also requires you to recognize the trap of underestimating what you can achieve long-term. People often overestimate what they can accomplish in a few weeks, get discouraged, and quit. But they underestimate what they can accomplish in a few years with consistent action and belief. If you plant the seeds today, nurture them, and refuse to give up, 5 or 10 years from now, your life could be unrecognizable in the best way possible. That's what thinking bigger does. It shifts your time horizon. You stop looking for instant gratification and start building a vision that pulls you forward, something that makes you excited to wake up in the morning because you know you're creating a future worth living. The key is to raise your standards for yourself, to decide that settling is no longer an option. When you redefine what's possible, you stop asking how to fit your dreams into your current circumstances. Instead, you start stretching your circumstances to match your dreams. That shift is where transformation begins, and it's where a greater life becomes inevitable. Your environment is shaping you every single day, whether you realize it or not. The people you spend the most time with, the conversations you engage in, the energy you absorb from those around you, all of it is programming your mind and influencing your choices. If you're surrounded by people who think small, who constantly focus on limitations, who complain more than they create, then no matter how motivated you are, their energy will start to pull you down. It's like trying to soar while carrying a 100-pound weight on your back. You may still rise for a while, but eventually the weight drags you back to the ground. This is why surrounding yourself with expanders, people who challenge you, inspire you, and force you to raise your standards, is critical if you want to live greater. Expanders are the people who make you feel slightly uncomfortable because their vision, their drive, and their perspective stretch your own. They're the ones who refuse to settle, who constantly push boundaries, and who hold you accountable to becoming your best self. When you spend time with them, something inside you shifts. You begin to see bigger possibilities for yourself, simply because you're immersed in an environment where bigger thinking is the norm. Think about how contagious energy is. Spend time with negative, small-minded people, and you'll find yourself drained. Spend time with bold, expansive thinkers, and suddenly your energy rises. You begin to dream bigger because you've been reminded that it's possible. Many people underestimate just how much their circle influences them. They think they can keep small-minded voices in their life and not be affected. But if you're constantly around people who doubt you, who discourage your dreams, who live in fear instead of faith. Eventually that mindset seeps into your own. You start second guessing yourself, not because you lack ability, but because you've been conditioned by their limitations. On the flip side, when you surround yourself with expanders, you absorb their belief, their courage, and their standards. You begin to feel as though you can accomplish things that once felt impossible because you're seeing examples of people doing exactly that. Sometimes surrounding yourself with expanders means physically changing your environment, finding mentors, joining communities, or seeking out networks that align with the level you want to reach. Other times it means being intentional with what you consume. The books you read, the podcasts you listen to, the events you attend, all of these can become sources of expansion if you choose wisely. In a world where information is at your fingertips, you no longer have the excuse of not having access to expanders. If you don't have them in your immediate circle, create them virtually. Consume their thoughts, their strategies, and their energy until it becomes part of your own. The truth is your standards will always rise or fall to the level of your environment. If you want to think bigger and live greater, you cannot afford to stay in spaces that shrink you. You must intentionally place yourself in environments that stretch you. Being around expanders is not just about motivation, it's about transformation. Their presence forces you to confront your excuses, to raise your game, and to step into the version of yourself that deep down you know you were meant to become. Once you start living in that kind of environment, small thinking becomes impossible and greatness becomes the only outcome. The fear of failure is one of the most powerful forces that keeps people trapped in a smaller version of themselves. It whispers in your ear, convincing you to stay safe, to avoid risks, to never step outside your comfort zone. It tells you stories of embarrassment, judgment, loss, and pain. And because those stories feel real, you let them dictate your decisions. The tragedy is that this fear stops more dreams than failure itself ever could. People don't usually fail because they tried and lost everything. They fail because they never truly tried in the first place. They let the idea of failing paralyze them into inaction, and in doing so, they settle for a life far beneath their potential. What most people don't understand is that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone to it. Every achievement, every breakthrough, every innovation in history has been built on a mountain of failures. Think about it, the world's greatest inventors, leaders, and creators didn't succeed on the first try. They stumbled, they fell, they got rejected, they lost money, they made mistakes. But they didn't interpret those failures as final. They saw them as feedback. They saw them as training. They saw them as necessary steps on the path to mastery. The difference between someone who lives a small life and someone who lives a great life is not the absence of failure. It's their relationship with failure. When you reframe failure as part of the process, its power over you dissolves. Instead of asking, what if I fail? You start asking, what will I learn if I fail? And how much closer will I be after this attempt? That shift gives you courage. It gives you freedom. It allows you to take bold action because you no longer tie your worth or your identity to the outcome of a single attempt. You understand that the only true failure is giving up completely. As long as you're moving forward, as long as you're learning, you're winning, even if the result doesn't look like success yet. Fear of failure also comes from worrying about what others will think. So many people play small because they're terrified of being judged, of looking foolish, of not measuring up in the eyes of others. But the truth is, those opinions don't pay your bills, they don't create your happiness, and they don't live your life. The people who laugh at you when you stumble are usually the same people who are too afraid to even try. And often, the same people who doubt you in the beginning are the ones who will applaud you once you succeed. You cannot let the fear of judgment dictate your destiny. Breaking the fear of failure requires practice. It means deliberately taking action even when you're uncertain. It means embracing small risks daily to build the muscle of resilience. The more you fail and recover, the less scary failure becomes. You start to see that failure isn't fatal, it's feedback. You realize that each failure leaves you stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the next step. Soon, failure stops being a monster in the dark and becomes a trusted teacher. And when that happens, nothing can hold you back because the fear that once controlled you no longer has a grip on your life. A vision is not just a picture of what you want your life to look like. It's the fuel that drives you forward when everything else tries to hold you back. Without a vision, people drift. They go through the motions, chasing survival instead of greatness, reacting to life instead of creating it. But when you have a vision that excites you, that scares you a little, that feels bigger than your current reality, you wake up with a sense of purpose. You stop needing outside motivation because the vision itself pulls you forward like gravity. It becomes the anchor that keeps you steady during storms and the fire that keeps you moving when you're tired or discouraged. A small vision creates a small life. If your vision is just to get by or pay the bills, or make it through the week, then that's exactly what you'll achieve, a life defined by bare minimums. But if your vision is bold and compelling, If it stretches you beyond where you are today, you'll find yourself rising to meet it. The size of your vision determines the size of your actions, and the size of your actions determines the size of your results. That's why thinking bigger always begins with seeing bigger. If you can't see yourself living a greater life, you'll never take the steps to create one. When your vision is powerful enough, it gives meaning to struggle. You stop seeing obstacles as reasons to quit and start seeing them as tests to prove how much you want it. Every setback becomes part of the story you'll one day tell about how you refuse to give up. That shift is crucial because life will challenge you no matter what. The difference between those who quit and those who succeed isn't the absence of difficulty, it's the presence of a vision worth fighting for. A vision makes the pain of sacrifice worth it because you're not just enduring for nothing, you're building something greater. Creating a vision that pulls you doesn't mean it has to be perfect or crystal clear from the start. It's about daring to ask yourself what you really want, not just what you think you can get. It's about stepping outside of what feels safe and imagining a life that excites you on every level. Too often people shrink their vision to match their current resources, their current skills, or their current circumstances. But vision is not about where you are, it's about where you're going. The resources, the skills, the opportunities show up along the journey. The vision is the starting point, the spark that ignites everything else. Your vision should make you a little uncomfortable because it should feel beyond what you know you can achieve right now. That's the point. It stretches you. It forces growth. It calls out the best in you because it requires you to become more than who you are today. And once you commit to it, you'll find that the energy, the creativity, and the resilience you need will emerge. That's the power of a vision that pulls you. It awakens the greatness that's been inside you all along, waiting for a reason to come alive. Dreams without action are nothing more than fantasies. You can sit and visualize all day. You can write down goals. You can talk about your plans, but if you don't move, nothing changes. Thinking big is essential, but it's only the starting point. The bridge between where you are and where you want to be is action, massive, aligned action, not timid steps when you feel comfortable, not waiting until everything is perfect, but bold, decisive moves that show you're serious about turning your vision into reality. The truth is, the universe doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to effort. When you act with intensity and consistency, doors open that would never have revealed themselves otherwise. Massive action doesn't mean reckless action. It means action that's aligned with your vision, your values, and your desired outcome. Too many people mistake business for progress. They fill their days with tasks, check off lists, and stay constantly occupied, but they never actually move closer to their dreams because their actions aren't aligned. When you're acting in alignment, every step you take feels like it matters. Even when it's hard, even when the results don't show up right away, you know you're moving in the right direction because your actions are tied directly to your greater purpose. That sense of alignment keeps you fueled long after motivation fades. Momentum is built through action, and momentum is what transforms possibility into inevitability. At first, progress may feel slow. You'll push hard, and the results might be small. That's where most people quit. They assume the effort isn't working, but success is not linear. It's exponential. Every day you take action, you're stacking bricks. And though you may not see the wall rising yet, eventually you hit a tipping point, suddenly the results compound, and everything you've been working for starts to take shape. Momentum kicks in, and what once seemed impossible starts to feel unstoppable. Another key to taking massive action is accepting imperfection. Waiting for the right moment, the right plan, or the right resources is just another form of procrastination dressed up as preparation. The right time will never come. You learn by doing. You improve by failing. You discover the path by walking it. People who achieve greatness aren't the ones who had perfect plans. They're the ones who acted, adjusted, and acted again. Every mistake became feedback. Every failure became a stepping stone, and every setback fueled a comeback. If you're unwilling to act until everything is certain, you'll stay stuck forever. When you commit to massive aligned action, you also set a standard for yourself. You declare through your actions that you're serious, that you're done settling, that you're willing to do what it takes. And that standard starts to shape your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants to change and start seeing yourself as someone who creates change. Identity fuels behavior, and once your identity shifts, your results follow. In the end, action is the only thing that transforms a vision into reality. It's the proof of your commitment, the builder of your momentum, and the key to living a life that's not just imagined, but fully experienced. Your mind is like a muscle. If you don't stretch it, train it, and feed it, it weakens over time. Most people think mindset is something that shifts once and then stays fixed. But the truth is, your mind requires daily conditioning, just like your body does. If you want to think bigger and live greater, you can't rely on occasional bursts of inspiration. You need rituals, habits, and practices that consistently expand your thinking and elevate your perspective. Without this discipline, your mind will default back to old patterns of fear, doubt, and limitation. The environment we live in is constantly feeding us distractions, negativity, and noise. So if you're not intentional about training your mind, you'll find yourself shrinking back into the same small version of life you were trying to escape. Training your mind daily doesn't mean doing something complicated or time-consuming. It's about small but powerful rituals that condition your focus and direct your energy toward growth. Gratitude is one of the simplest yet most effective ways to expand your mindset. By taking a few minutes each day to focus on what you already have, you shift your brain from scarcity to abundance. You stop obsessing over what's missing and start recognizing how much is already possible for you. That shift alone can fuel bigger thinking because it creates a foundation of appreciation instead of lack. Another key practice is visualization. When you consistently imagine the future you're creating, when you see it vividly and feel it emotionally, you're training your brain to believe it's possible. The subconscious mind doesn't fully distinguish between real experiences and deeply imagined ones. That's why athletes, entrepreneurs, and performers use visualization. It programs the mind to align with the outcome they're aiming for. The more you see it, the more you believe it. The more you believe it, the more you act on it. And the more you act on it, the faster it becomes real. Feeding your mind with empowering content is another critical piece. Books, podcasts, mentors, and training programs are fuel for your mental growth. If you're not intentionally feeding your brain, the world will feed it for you, and what it gives you won't always serve you. Most media thrives on fear, drama, and limitation. To counteract that, you need to choose voices that expand you, challenge you, and raise your standards. Over time, the ideas you consume shape the way you think, and the way you think shapes the way you live. Reflection is equally important. Taking time each day to journal, to evaluate your thoughts, and to ask yourself powerful questions allows you to uncover limiting beliefs that may be holding you back. When you bring awareness to those patterns, you create the power to change them. This daily self-awareness work is like shining a light into dark corners. Suddenly the fears and doubts lose their grip because you've named them, challenged them, and reframed them. The truth is, mindset is not built in a single moment. It's built in the repetition of moments. Just like going to the gym once won't transform your body, thinking positively once won't transform your life. It's the consistent practice of stretching your thoughts, challenging your beliefs, and aligning your focus every single day that creates lasting change. The more you train your mind to expand, the less room there is for small thinking, and the more natural it becomes to pursue a life that is truly greater. Most people go through life trapped in small thinking, but you don't have to be one of them. The moment you choose to expand your vision, surround yourself with people who lift you higher, embrace failure as a teacher, create a vision that excites you, take massive aligned action, and train your mind daily, you step into a new reality. You stop living by chance and start living by design. Thinking bigger isn't about arrogance or greed. It's about honoring the potential you've been given. Playing small doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve the world. The world needs your courage, your ideas, your vision, your energy. When you think bigger, you don't just transform your own life, you inspire others to do the same. So don't shrink your dreams to fit your circumstances. Stretch your circumstances to match your dreams. Don't ask, what's realistic? Ask, what's possible if I give everything I have? That's the mindset that creates breakthroughs. That's the mindset that builds legacies. That's the mindset that allows you to not just live, but to live greater. The time is now. Your future is waiting. Step up, claim your power, and decide that from this moment forward, you will think bigger, act bolder, and live greater. Thank you for your time, your focus, and your energy. I honor the fact that you've chosen growth today, and I believe in the greatness that's inside you. Now go out there and live it. Thank you. God bless you, and I'll see you at the top.